Hello everyone, welcome back again to my channel, and in this video I will explain about phonological rules, assimilation and insertion. Actually there are several phonological rules, but in this video I just want to talk about assimilation and insertion. So without any further ado, let's jump into the definition of phonological rules. So what is phonological rules? Phonological rules are the rules, whether written or spoken, that control how sounds change during vocal communication. Phonological rules describe how phonemes are realized as their allowance in a given environment. Environment in phonology typically refers to neighboring phonemes. There are experts or phonologists who define phonological rules. They are John Golden-Smith and Bruce Hayes. John Golden-Smith defines phonological rules as mappings between two different levels of sound representation, in this case, the abstract or underlying level and the surface level, while Bruce Hayes describes them as generalizations about the different ways a sound can be pronounced in a different environment. After understanding the definition of phonological rules, now I will explain about the types of phonological rules, assimilation and insertion. Assimilation is when one sound is influenced and changed by a neighboring sound. This can occur either within a word or between words. In assimilation, there are types of assimilation, manners of assimilation, and forms of assimilation. Well, the first types of assimilation, here we have assimilation of place. The examples are breadbag or oatmeal. To read this word, the T sound is replaced by a P sound. This is because the alveolar plosive th is simplified into the P sound, which is closer to the bilabial plosive P. So, usually people read redback as redback, so is in the fast speaking, and then the oatmeal become oatmeal. So we just replace the T sound to P sounds, breadbag and oatmeal. The next type is assimilation of manner. Assimilation of manner refers to when two different manners of articulation influence each other to form a different type of manner of articulation. For examples, Indian as Indian, soldier as soldier. This is because the plosive d combines with the approximant y to form the affricative j. So here we can read Indian as Indian, soldier as soldier. The third type of assimilation is assimilation of voice. Assimilation of voice is illustrated by the pronunciation of have to with an f sound rather than the v sound, as the voiced fricative is followed by a voiceless consonant. So to read have to, not have to. So we use a v sound rather than the v sound. Another example is I like that black dog. It is typical of many foreign learners of English to allow regressive assimilation of voicing to change the final K of like to G, the final T of that to D, and the final K of black to G. Now I will explain about the manner of assimilation. There are three types of manner of assimilation. First is progressive assimilation, second, regressive assimilation, and the last is coalescence assimilation. When the change involves a preceding sound, it is called progressive assimilation. These are examples of progressive assimilation. First, the S morpheme of the plural becomes Z when preceded by a voiced consonant. For example, bag plus S becomes bags, bags. Then pencil plus S becomes pencils, pencils. The second example is t becomes t when preceded by a voiceless consonant. Example, kick plus ad, kick. Second is regressive assimilation. When the change involves the following sound, it is called regressive assimilation. These are examples of regressive assimilation. First, n becomes under the influence of a labial consonant that follows. For example, 10 minutes. We can read it 10 minutes. Second, t becomes t when followed by a voiceless consonant. For example, use. Next is z becomes s when followed by p or t sound. For example, newspaper. So we can't not read newspaper, but newspaper. The following example is n becomes when followed by k, as in income. So we read it income, not income but income. Then v becomes f when followed by p or t. For examples, 5 pence, not 5 pence. Have to, not have to. And then fifth, not fifth. The last two examples of regressive assimilation. S becomes sh when followed by sh. Example, horseshoe. We read it as horseshoe, not horseshoe, but horseshoe. Then, sometimes two sounds merge into one as in standpoint. So we read it as standpoint, not standpoint, but standpoint. The last type of manner of assimilation is coalescence assimilation. Coalescence assimilation occurs when there is a fission. In English, coalescence occurs when a morpheme, final alveolar plosive or fricative, t, or s, z, is followed by y. Palato alveolar three fricative results, mostly when the segment is followed by the suffix ion. A typical example is television. In the interaction between sh and e that occurs while turning the verb to the noun form results in sh, which gives television. Now I will explain about the forms of assimilation. There are two kinds of forms of assimilation. First is full assimilation, and the second is partial assimilation. Full assimilation is also known as complete assimilation. Complete assimilation is that a sound is totally affected by a neighboring sound, in which both sounds become one or become identical. For example, the phrase "that place" becomes "the place." Next is partial assimilation. Most assimilations are partial assimilation in which the assimilated sound becomes only more similar but not identical to the influencing sound. For example, the phrase 10 pipes is pronounced as 10 pigs instead of 10 pigs in colloquial speech. Here, the alveolar sound n changes into which is a bilabial sound under the influence of p, which is also a bilabial sound. Now I will explain about the second phonological rules. It is insertion. Insertion is phonological process in which a sound is added to a word. For example, in English, many say hamster instead of hamster. A p is added here. Voiceless stop insertion where between a nasal consonant and a voiceless fricative. A voiceless stop with the same place of articulation as the nasal consonant is inserted. Well guys, that's all my explanation about the phonological rules, assimilation and insertion. Thank you so much for watching and see ya in the next video.